Why would I want to grow anything other than pawpaws? All the other fruit trees, you have to spray them. That's the whole purpose of you growing your own fruit. Is that you don't have to spray them with anything. But if it's a peach tree, it's an apple tree, it's even the cherry trees are staying. But the peach tree and the plum tree, I think it's out of here, and I'm just gonna grow pawpaws. You don't have to worry about the fungus problem. That's the fungus problem. If you're eating fruit in the grocery store, I guarantee you they had to spray all that with insecticides. One, you don't have to spray a pawpaw with insecticides, and with antifungal stuff, with chemicals. There's no way you can grow stone fruit without spraying it. But the pawpaw tree, because it's indigenous to the United States, it needs nothing. Yet we don't have pawpaw fruit in stores. It's like the size of a mango. I'm constantly in the growing season pulling weeds like this and then just leaving them underneath the tree. Now, one thing that you want to make sure is like keep making sure that the base of the tree, that it's nice and clear. You don't want to build up a lot of material around here and let it get wet, because although they do like wet, moist soil, you don't want to get, rot around the trunk. So make sure and keep the base clear, but just keep pulling your weeds or whatever. It gets out like this, and just leaving it here. Now, since you water the pawpaw a whole lot, when you water it, you're watering this, and this just decomposes in a very short period. Within a week, your plant material that's on the top is decomposed into mulch on top of the plant, the tree. This is pawpaw trees. I'm not saying you should do this in your garden. Maybe your garden, can't put up with that. Can't put up with that type of decaying material around your vegetables. But I'm not growing vegetables. I'm growing pawpaw trees. So I'm trying to make an environment that would be inducive for them to grow, and that would be their natural environment, like a swampy kind of wet area with a lot of decaying plant material. That's how they do best. I do recommend amending the soil. Make sure and use the water crystals always with pawpaws. These are water storing crystals. You can buy these online or at Home Depot. Lowe's has them. Some gardening places has it. And it stores water. If you overwater, it'll just soak up the water, but that's really not a concern with the pawpaws. But what is a concern with the pawpaws is they are not drought tolerant. So this is extremely helpful. One thing about these that you should know is that there is no nitrogen in these. So you have to do something. So if you're putting in a young tree and you're using a lot of these, just keep that in mind. You don't want to use nitrogen with the tree, but you also don't want them just growing in water. Keep them moist their whole life. You're not gonna want them to dry out. They're not really drought tolerant. If it's a large tree like this, sure, it can put up with a lot more than a little tiny sapling or seedling that's 2 inches tall. Absolutely. But make sure if you're trying to grow them and you want them to do well, you want them in an environment that's real wet. I grew up in Missouri as a kid. These grew all over, and it was always it always rains in Missouri. Same thing with this area of New York. It's very rare that there's any type of drought up here. We get a lot of rain. So if you live in an area where there's a lot of rain, this might be the plant you want to grow. Plus, you don't have any problems you don't have to spray them with antifungal. You have to spray all these fruit trees, these stone trees, with antifungal products, insecticides. No problem here. Nothing. You don't have to spray them with anything. They just grow fruit. Here's a pawpaw. That black right there, that was just because a leaf has been laying on it and rubbing against it. That's nothing. That's nothing. Usually they're all green.
If you see, it sort of looks like a mango. This is not nearly done. It has at least another 45 days. It'll get much bigger than this. No insecticides need to be used. No fungicide, no fungicide. Nothing like that. Yet we don't have this fruit in the stores. And it's grown, or it's indigenous to the United States. It's absurd. It's absurd. All that stone fruit, it all has to be sprayed with something. I don't care what they put on the label. I don't care if they say organic, whatever. Your fruit is being sprayed with something, because if it's a peach tree, an apple tree, it's gonna get fungus. You can't really grow them without spraying them with something. Now there's products on the market like copper sulfate and sulfur products that they consider like all natural, but it's not really natural to be consuming large doses of copper or sulfur. That's on your fruit. It's on all your fruit in the stores. You have to spray these trees. Now the recommendation is, even with those products, you don't harvest for 10 days, because it will, like when it rains and stuff, it'll start coming off the fruit. I don't want to be spraying any more peach trees. I'm done with this. I'm just growing pawpaws. When you're spraying them, if the wind blows a little bit, you get it on you. Fuck this. Why am I going to do that when I can grow something that not only looks it's cool. They're great looking trees. I don't have to spray it. All I have to do is make sure that it gets enough water. They're not like, other fruit trees that are not from this area, not indigenous. You don't want them to dry out. That's key with growing pawpaws, is they like moist soil. This tree at least doubled in size this year. This has been one of the stars. It's not 6 foot, and it has to be 6 foot to fruit. So I won't be getting fruit on it next year, I don't think, because it is not 6 foot. It's about 5. It's about 5'8". Well, maybe I might get fruit on this one, but this has been a star. That's a Wabash, and it had a broken branch, and instead of scrapping the branch, which I could have easily done, I wired it up using soldering wire, because it moves with the tree as the tree grows. It works real good. So last year it didn't do much of anything, but it's really catching up. I planted it the same time that I planted this. This is a Shenandoah or a Potomac. I'd have to check. It's one of the two. But that's a Wabash, and it's doing real good. It's been in the ground for 3 years. It didn't do anything for 2 years. This is the first year that we're getting a lot of growth on it. There you go. That says something. Don't, think that the plant's a dud. Sometimes they play possum for a while, and then they just take off and grow a lot. Like this one over here. This tree. This tree didn't do too much until this year, and now it's doing great. See what this one is. That's a Potomac. Yes, this is a Potomac. They have good fruit. That's a Peterson's Pawpaw. Here that I'm putting in these little seedlings, these will end up being grafts. I bought these from companion plants. No, this one is a seed that I put in the ground, and this I transplanted last night when it was raining. You always want to, if you're going to try and do that, if you're going to try and move a pawpaw, do it when the ground's real moist and the sun's not out. This one might be okay, but you have to worry about the root. Do not buy bare root pawpaw. They will not grow. You're getting ripped off. Second year pawpaw, and this is where the other one was. It was right here, and I dug it up. And this is a second year pawpaw. It got chewed off in the winter. Something chewed it off. I wasn't sweating it. I'm just, taking my time, see them if it'll come back, and of course they always come back. If the taproot is intact, the plant will just keep living. You can mow these things over, they just keep coming back. That right there, that's from a seed. I believe the fruit was a Potomac, and it has not done anything, and we're already at August, and it hasn't done anything. But am I gonna dig that up? Hell no. That might actually be playing possum right now. Could be totally viable. I will not touch it. We'll just leave it, and if it does come in, it's about a foot away from the other one. That's sort of naturally how they might grow. So that's where that one will stay. I just felt that it was necessary to get, there was two, I put 3 seeds in the ground right next to each other. Do not overwater your pawpaw tree, but don't underwater it. And when I say I might come out here for 6 days in a row and water the pawpaw trees, I mean that. So use that as your guideline. I'm telling you that it is difficult to overwater a pawpaw tree. If you have soil that drains real good, which this is real rocky, you're probably not going to overwater the pawpaw tree. Just make sure that there's no material around the base of the trunk that will just keep it wet there. Just make sure and keep clearing that out, especially if you're putting plant material on top of where your pawpaw grows. Use it as mulch and use it as fertilizer. See how I have it shaded with the stone? I'll keep it like this until probably I see a lot of growth on it. If I see it growing heavily, then I will take all the shading off anything that's growing real good. If I get a lot of growth, like next spring, I might take the shading off, but I'm gonna make sure that it does not dry out and it stays moist the whole time. That's key, because when it's shaded like this, it's also ensuring that the soil is staying moist. It sort of works like mulch, you know what I mean? Like there's no sun beating down on it. So that's your most important factor as far as I'm concerned, is making sure that the soil stays moist. Don't let the pawpaw dry out, especially when they're young like this. Just keep soaking them down. The chances of overwatering your pawpaw are pretty slim. But keep an eye on it. If you think you're overwatering, you might. But if you're giving the pawpaw a lot of water, you also might see a lot of growth. See all this new growth? That's because I water them heavily. If I wasn't watering them, they wouldn't have all this growth. They might have a little growth, but they're not going to have this amount. See how it's mostly green? See all the green on the top of the Sasquatch Pawpaw? That's a lot of green. That's a lot of growth. It's because I water this one heavily. I water them all heavily. I've never had a problem with overwatering pawpaws. I mean, that's a lot of growth. That's probably 20 inches right now. It'll add on at least 2 feet this year.